So if anybody's interested, the slides are all available because there's a lot of links, particularly at the end. And I'm not cool enough to do a QR code, but I have a URL there on a really mediocre web page, but it does have the slides. So there's that. I am not a real web designer. That's a circa 90s thing. It's perfect on there. Still got 10 minutes before the start, so. What's that?
So can you guess who I am?
No, you got it. I was looking around for you. I didn't see you.
Yeah, I've been busy. But if you want,
Here, hold on.
I've got Mastodon so you can get up here and at the bottom.
Okay. Final check. Sounds like I'm on. Back row. Okay, I got a thumbs up. Give it another minute or two. Okay, I'll repeat it again. The slides are available. There's a lot of links on the last couple of pages, so the slides are available on my lousy webpage on NeoCities. So it's not good, but it's there. It'll be on the thing at the end too, so. All right, so it's about time. Let's get started with an introduction to Mastodon and the Fediverse. Okay, a little introduction. I am Murph, Bob Murphy. I am a Linux systems administrator in New Jersey. I am a longtime Linux user and a longtime Fediverse denizen, which is hard to pronounce. You can find me on the Fediverse at murph@hackers.town, or if you're really old school, on Identica/Murph. Or if you have questions about the Fediverse and how to get on or whatever after this conference, feel free to email me, murph@weirdness.com. And there's the slides. We already talked about that. So let's get started. What is the Fediverse? The word comes from a portmanteau of federated and universe, and it's a collection of protocols, servers, and users. Together, they form communities that can communicate with each other. Users can exchange, and this is just scratching the surface, we're going to talk about this later, short messages, blog-style posts, music, and videos between different services. But that's what this whole talk is about, so that's just a quick overview. So let's talk about the history of the Fediverse. A lot of you might have heard, because of some turmoil over at a bird-shaped site that, oh, Mastodon's this new thing that just started. Yeah, Mastodon has just started in 2016, but the Fediverse actually goes back considerably further than that, and it has a bit of a history. So, in 2008, Evan Pedromo created a microblogging service called Identica. Okay, it used what was called the OSTATUS protocol, and the server software was called StatusNet. And it went through different permutations of things. You may hear a few other names, but that's the main part of it. And he leaned on a little bit of old work from Matt Lee with some other federated thing, but he basically set up what we're going to see today back then. So we're talking 2008. In about 2012, he saw some of the flaws in OSTATUS and changed his service to use a new protocol called pump.io. And he released the OSTATUS protocol, which has turned into GNU Social, or back then turned into GNU Social. It was released to the Free Software Foundation and sort of incorporated in there. The Fediverse kept on going like this for a couple of years, but interesting to note, there was really a nice little community around Identica back then, and when he switched to Pump.io, it broke federation with the other GNU status, or GNU Social and or OSTATUS. I'm confusing myself on my own terms here. So we now had two different competing networks that really weren't talking to each other, and a lot of the community got broken up, which was kind of unfortunate, and it was also right about the time that Google started Google+. So there was kind of a big migration away into another big silo. But things changed. Of course, Google, like they do with very nearly everything, killed Google+, and so there's been, this is stuff that's been around for a while in different permutations. So in roughly March 2016, a guy in Germany called Eugen Rachko, which I'm probably pronouncing wrong, whose online name is Gargron, which I'm probably pronouncing right, created Mastodon, which was basically a GNU Social server client that gave a little broader front end to GNU Social. It gave a better experience because he was largely unsatisfied with the way Twitter was moderating their network. So it really picked up some popularity because, GNU Social was always bubbling along in the background there, lots of servers, people talking, and why would he use another protocol that does that? Well, if you start your own social network, you're like the one guy in town that bought a walkie-talkie. Click, hello, hello, there's nobody home. He tapped into an existing network, but because this is federated, you could have different servers talking to each other, so he could reach out to all those other servers. It's starting to slip. So he gained some of the network effect from the existing network, which was good. So fast forward a couple of years to 2018. There's a new protocol called ActivityPub. Let me redo this sentence, which seems a little out of order. In 2018, there was and this took on years of work. This was an evolution from Pump.io and some lessons from GNU Social. So it was authored by Evan Pedromo, Christine Lemmer-Weber, which is almost as hard to pronounce as the other thing, and a bunch of other people. I don't mean to dismiss them, I just don't have all their names on here, which expanded upon the previous protocols and services and made it better and more flexible. So over time, Gargron transitioned Mastodon to go from GNU Social to ActivityPub. Now it runs on the newer, better protocol, and eventually they phased out GNU Social. So this was sort of an evolution. So we're in the Fediverse. Now most of the older servers in the Fediverse have converted over to ActivityPub because it has clear benefits in this regard. So and what we're seeing is a lot more services that also speak ActivityPub. Let me make sure I got everything on here. No. Yeah. Oh, no, I didn't. So it was accepted. So in 2018, it was accepted as a standard by the W3C social group. So we have something that's got some degree of credibility now. It's not just some dude that wrote a server. We've got a standardized protocol, we've got some server software, we've got an existing network, so we're starting to come together with something good here. So if you look at the existing networks, like the Bird site and the Book of Faces and all of those things, they're usually run by a single company or organization. Even though they have lots of servers, they run the whole show. It's their way, that's it. Your data goes in there, and there's and there is a little mistake here. It says the only way to share with others is to have them join that service, or the modern interoperability standard, which is taking a screenshot of it and posting it on the other services, which is not great. So federation, when we have what we have in Mastodon and the other clients, people that are on different services or different servers can interoperate with each other. And the easy way to visualize this is one everybody's probably familiar with, which is email. You know, if you go back to the dawn of email, you had, people on AOL couldn't talk to people on Prodigy, couldn't talk to people on CompuServe because they were all separate. When email gained more popularity, all of these services adopted it, and now you can send email to people no matter what server they're on, which today half the people are on Gmail and everybody else is on other servers. So now we've got interoperability. So if you can imagine a short message type platform that now different servers can talk to each other. And so one of the problems with these big services is that, you have 300 million users or 1 billion or 2 billion users, and what you need to do is come up with one set of coherent rules that make sense for everybody in the world. That seems like an impossible task to come up against, really. So what federation does is, if you have lots of smaller servers, those servers can have rules and can have policies that affect their users and their locality, and you don't have to try to please everybody on the planet simultaneously. And then and you might think, well, what if somebody runs a server really lousy, and I don't want to talk to those people. Those people are screwing everything up now. Well, the operators of all these different services, all these different disparate services, can moderate other services. So say, I have a service and I want to keep things, nice and friendly, and somebody is posting horrible stuff from another server. And, I talked to the administrator of that server. I said, hey, can you have your guys clean up their act? And they said, no, we let people say whatever they want, and if you don't like it, tough. Well, that server could be blocked off. Now, that could be done on an individual user level. Like if you personally don't like to see that stuff and your operator says, well, they're not that bad, well, you can block that one server, or you can block a user. Or if someone's doing something particularly egregious, the operator of your system or the operator of any system can block that server immediately. That way there's no chance of doing that. And that's where community standards and communities help govern a better space for that stuff. Okay, here is a terrible illustration of federation. I know because I made it. So if you look on the left, we've got centralized. This is your Twitters or your Facebooks or whatever. Everybody connects to the home server, and that's it. They control what goes in and goes out, which is nothing except for screenshots. A federated system, you can see we have 3 different servers there, and the users connect to the servers, and those links go directly. Now the last one looks a little confusing. The Fediverse allows system operators to do things like silent servers, where you won't see everything from the other server, but if you know somebody over there that you really want to communicate with, you can still connect to them. So that's why I have some of these, go over here, some of these ones that are connected. First of all, in the Fediverse, you could run your own server. You could be a single person on one server, and you could talk to everybody else. Now, that comes with some challenges, but you can do it. So you could think of some of these as single user instances, or if these 2 servers have, if one of these has silenced the other, users can still connect. So blocks are not necessary. You could sort of do a soft block, or you could do, you can actually block servers so that information can't get through. Okay, let's talk about a few of the services that are available. I know this is a big list. I'm going to go through it a little bit quickly, but we've got lots of time actually. So the things that have direct, these are the ones that have direct equivalence in other services. So if you look at microblogging, like a Twitter or something like that, Mastodon is good if you want to set up a service for a lot of people, but if you're going to do something for a few people, or for just a single person, there are smaller platforms, or they're not smaller platforms, but platforms that are a little bit leaner and a little bit easier to administrate for smaller instances like Pleroma and Misskey and, Akoma, A-K-K-O-M-A, is another, it's a fork of Pleroma. This forks this and that, there's lots of that. So that's mostly for small messages. Now, of course, you can share images and videos on that too, but that's not their focus. Their focus is, sort of a Twitter-like experience, although not a direct analogy. You get into stuff like PixelFed is image hosting. And the guy that wrote that, the single user, it's collaborative, but the guy that got it started really wanted a federated Instagram. That was what he was shooting for, and he does a pretty nice job of it. I'll show you some screenshots, and we'll bring that up later. It's an interesting platform. Lemmy is a link aggregator. Think of something like Reddit, except you can follow stuff on somebody's Lemmy server from your Mastodon account, and you can comment back. For full-fledged blogging, if you want to, you say the limit on messages in Mastodon is usually 500 characters. You can go in to the, again, this is all, now something I haven't mentioned is all of this stuff is some manner of free software or open source in all of this. So there's nothing stopping you from going in and say, I'd like my posting limit to be higher as the, if you're running the server. Can't do it as a user, you have to talk to who's running the software for you. But if you want to do long post blogs, and that's a more comfortable way for you to operate, Write As and Read As, and I believe Write As is a paid-for service where they run it, but the server software is available, so you can run it on your own if you like. But if you want them to run it, if you say, hey, I just want to blog, I want somebody else doing the nerd stuff running the server, you can pay somebody else to do it, sort of like a WordPress type situation. But you can also follow people from other services in the Fediverse, so it's a good alternative for that. PeerTube, as you might guess from the name, is a video hosting site, sort of like YouTube, except it uses some degree of peer-to-peer technology to soften the blow of the bandwidth. But you can, again, run your own server or join somebody's server, and and again, you could follow somebody from other services. Funkwhale, I'm a little less familiar with. Audio hosting, sort of like Grooveshark. I'm not a big audio guy, though, so something to explore and tell me about later. And then there's event planning software. Now, I put 2 of them up here. As far as I know, Mobilizon is software you can go on and you can create groups, and when that group announces an event, you can get a message sent out over Mastodon. GetTogether.community, I listed on there because I like the software, I've used it. They've had Fediverse, they've had ActivityPub integration on their roadmap for like 3 years, 4 years, and it has yet to materialize. I'm not a developer, I can't really help them with it, so. Okay, and there are lots and lots of services. One of the things with the current migration away from Twitter is a lot of people have come over. And when they start doing things like playing around with the APIs and charging for them and taking tools away from developers that were trying to make Twitter better, is they shut those doors off and those people want something to work with. And ActivityPub has little to no restrictions on anything that you can do with it. So a lot of developers are coming over with new ideas or just new clients. So we've got a lot more stuff. So I could barely cover I couldn't possibly cover everything. So I've just scratched the surface with that list and with this. And you can see there's stuff here that I haven't even gotten into. So there's lots of services, there's lots of new stuff, and it's increasing day by day. And all of these are right now tied together with the ActivityPub protocol. So I'm going to show a few examples of different services, and I'm going to show, because that always goes well, a live demo afterwards. So this is an example of the default view that you'll see of Mastodon if you were to create a new account on somebody's Mastodon server. And you can see it's a familiar looking interface. We've got a strip up the middle, which is right now our home timeline, but we can select other timelines. Now, one thing about having different servers talking to each other, right now you're seeing everybody you're following, but you've also got the community of people that are on the server that you are on. That would be your local timeline. And again, I'm going to show some of this in a few minutes. This is a screenshot. I can't click through the stuff yet. You can get dangerous and click on the federated timeline, which is a combination of all of the users that everybody on your instance follows, or that they search for them explicitly in the search bar. And it may even go a little further than that. Occasionally it gets a little unclear. But what you're seeing is everybody that your server touches in some way. So it's not a real fire hose of everything on the Fediverse, but you're getting a broader view. You're seeing everything that your server ever touches. So that can move very fast, and you never know what you're going to find on it. It's one of those things it's like the internet. What can you find? Probably anything. So if your server is well moderated, you probably won't find anything too terrible on there because it's moderated. So, but one of the things, and this was originally the interface that Mastodon started with, is the advanced interface, which I understand is like TweetDeck, but I'm not a Twitter user, so I'll have to take somebody's word for that. It's similar, and you could see the different timelines that I mentioned. We've got a place for you to post messages. We've got the home timeline, which is everyone that you follow. We've got the local timeline, which is people that are posting from the server that you are on. And then the federated timeline. This is a few years old. This was when, this was a different thing. And then just in this last column, I just clicked on another Mastodon user's user account. So I'm not going to explain SDF.org right now. That probably would need a talk of its own, honestly. So here's a quick example of PixelFed. This is the portfolio view, which shows a bunch of pictures. And you can see my predilection for pictures is I ride a bike somewhere, lean the bike on something, and take a picture of it. That's most of what's in my role there. That's most of it anyway. So you can see, a nice gallery of pictures here. There is also a more Instagram-ish feed of all the people you follow, which looks similar to the local timeline in Mastodon, but it's mostly pictures. They've added support for text-only things and for video, but PixelFed is really an image-sharing service for the most part. Okay, PeerTube. This is a picture on a PeerTube instance from a couple of years ago. We could take a look at it now. But you can see we've got all the people on this instance have videos on there. I don't know if Art's in there somewhere. He might be in there somewhere. Yes, he is in there somewhere. So Art can tell us exactly how old that is because he knows when he posted his video, probably. So in any case, we've got an array of pictures from the people that post on this particular server. You can search for other servers. One of the things, PeerTube's a little sketchy with finding videos on other servers, so it's good to branch out and look for other servers if you're looking for stuff. It's not one place where every video is. but that's in the nature of all of these things. So, one of the things that's a little bit tricky, and people, I'm trying to address some of the things that people have mentioned with this, latest influx of new users. People say, I don't know how to find people. Because one of the nice things about Mastodon is the algorithm is simple. It shows you the people you follow and what they post. That's it. That's the algorithm in roughly chronological order. So, that's the algorithm. But the problem is, how do you find people? So, a couple of things you can do if you start on a new Mastodon instance and you're not sure how to find people. One way is to look at your local timeline. If you picked an instance that interests you, the people on there are probably going to be interesting to you. So look through your local timeline, view those posts, and see what they're posting about. If you find interesting people, you can follow them. Look at what they post and what they boost, and look at the people that follow them. So when you find somebody that does something interesting, you look at their followers or who they're following, and you'll find people of like mind. So you're building a list of people to view. You can also search for hashtags that interest you. Mastodon is rather intentionally not completely text searchable. If you want to be found in a search, you have to use hashtags. Because you can search for hashtags, but if you want to keep a low profile, if you don't use any hashtags, people that don't follow you won't see those messages in a search. That was done intentionally to protect people. So if you find a hashtag you like, you can follow that. You can actually follow the hashtag itself directly, and then you find people talking about things you're interested in. You can also follow hashtags. So once you find a hashtag that's interesting and you click on it and say, "Hey, this is neat," you can actually follow that hashtag itself, and then everything that is marked with that hashtag that your server sees will then show up in your home feed, and you'll find more interesting things to look at. So from there, get the ball rolling, and you've created the type of view you want. And some people have said, and I should talk about this, I don't know if it's in a later slide or not, but say, hey, I'd like an algorithm. I like it when Twitter tells me what I missed or things that interest me. Well, that's great. And people have talked about writing algorithms. I have no problem with algorithms helping you find stuff. I just don't like it when some company is creating an algorithm that is best for them to retain users and make money, and not in your best interest. So look for clients that have algorithms that suit you. And if we can find that, that'd be good. I haven't seen too much of it yet. But, I've seen people say, oh, there'll never be algorithms. No, I hope there are. I hope people do come up with interesting algorithms to surface stuff that you want to see. But it's the stuff you want to see, not what they want you to see. They want you to see. Okay. And there's been some talk about, again, with this, with this influx. Is that visible? Oh, it's pretty good and visible there. Okay? So you could see there weren't so many people around, somewhere around 500,600,000 regular users. And then, wow, look, something happened in November. Wonder what that could have been. Boom, everything shoots up. But then it goes back down again. Because what happens with any service? People join. They look around. They go, hey, I don't see anybody. I can't find William Shatner. And they leave. And that's okay. Because you know what? There's nobody running Mastodon. Gargron isn't saying, hey, VC guys are breathing down my neck to double our users next month. That's not a thing. Slow growth is okay. Not that I speak for Mastodon. Maybe I do speak for Mastodon. I don't really speak for Mastodon, but frankly, I would rather see people come in, find things they like, contribute, and make it a better community. If that number is 1 million or 100 million, I'm more concerned with quality than everybody in the world being on this one platform. I think it offers a lot for a lot of people, but I'd rather see people stick around because they find it interesting, not because somebody found a way to tweak the algorithm to keep you on for another 50 seconds so that they can get another ad in front of your face. So, conclusion, and I have another thing. One thing that people have said is, oh, there's no advertising on Mastodon. They can't have advertising on Mastodon. No, that's not true. There's no reason somebody couldn't set up a Mastodon server and make it ad-supported. And if they're showing the ads to you, and if they're not tracking you horribly, although that's typically how they do it, if they show ads to you and that funds your service and you don't find it particularly onerous, that might be a perfectly acceptable way to go. And that would be fine. I don't know if people stick around on it. People might say, oh, maybe I'll go on to this other one. You know, I throw some money at the person that runs my instance to help cover their costs. But I do that voluntarily. Now, I'm sure there's a small percentage of people that do that, but it seems to be sufficient to keep things going. If someone wanted to try to run an ad-funded Mastodon server, that'd probably work. Of course, if that ad-funded Mastodon server started sending ads to other people, they'd probably get blocked horribly, and they'd find themselves a little tiny ad-filled island with nobody talking to them in a big hurry. So if someone's thinking about that, consider the consequences of your actions, because if you decide to send ads to everybody, that's probably not going to work out really all that well for you. But funding your own thing with ads, that could certainly work. So, a little bit of a conclusion. We're going to have plenty of time for questions, by the way. The Fediverse is a way to use the web in a little more individual way, so you can choose an instance with a community that you feel you fit in with, or run your own server and make it exactly the way you want. You know, you could run a server for a dozen of your friends and just have a little community there, and they can all reach out to whoever they want. Keep it small. Small is good. It says, it avoids the advertising algorithms, other unpleasantries. I talked about both of those. They could both turn up. Algorithms could be good. So hopefully they'll do that. Somebody will do it. So when you join the Fediverse, remember, you're not joining one gigantic blob of everybody in the world just because everybody in the world is there. You're joining a community. Look at who you're jumping in with and try to nurture that, try to work with that, you know, with both good quality posts and, try to contribute to the conversation and throw a few bucks at the person that's running your instance, because for the most part, it's volunteer run. Now, there's some interesting stuff coming up, which I don't think we know all of the consequences with. I know Pinboard and Medium, a couple of different companies are actually integrating the Fediverse into their commercial products. So we'll see how all that goes. It could be interesting. It could be horrifying. We'll find out. We don't really know. Hopefully it'll be a good thing. Hopefully people from those communities that have something that they want to get out to Mastodon and will engage with the communities they're in, this could be a really good thing. This could be quality users coming in. Now, if it's people that just broadcast out, whatever, maybe it'll be a wash, and if it turns into a flood of garbage, maybe it'll be bad and they'll get blocked. That's a possibility. So here comes the big page of links. Boom. Okay, that's why I put up the slides, and I'll put up the location for the slides again later. So a couple things that you can find out more. One of the things that's a little bit tricky is finding an instance. So I'd say there are two good ways to do it. One, read all of this. Okay, that's a little daunting. Find someone that's on the Fediverse and talk to them. They can probably give you some pointers for a tip, and my email is open. If someone wants to ask questions, feel free. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that are here. Fediverse.info has nice videos explaining a bunch of stuff, a way to search by subject for different instances. And by the way, there's no one place to find where you start. That's why there's a bunch of links here. Look at one. If you look at one and you go, this looks a little opaque, you know what, just skip to the next one. There's lots of them. There's a subject page. You could search for subjects and say, who are the people that are interested in this? And then you can find out, oh, wow, a lot of people that are interested in the subject I'm interested in are on this instance over here. That's one to investigate. Fedi.tips is a comprehensive guide for users. They also have a pick your instance thing. Actually, most of these have that, to be honest. Fedi.tips has a lot of good tips on how to effectively use your account once you get on one of these federated services, be it Mastodon or be it one of the other ones. If you're looking strictly for Mastodon, you can go to joinmastodon.org, and they also have an instance picker, although honestly it seems to be biased towards the very large instances, and you might want to consider whether you want to go with a smaller instance. So keep your eyes open, and it also doesn't tell you about any other services. If you're really a photo person and you want to show people your photos, Mastodon works for that, but PixelFed would probably be a better fit. Join Mastodon will never tell you about that. So keep an open mind. Join Fediverse.wiki. I forget about that one. Okay, different services and instances. That's why I followed it up on there. So you'll see different services. You'll see the PixelFeds, you'll see the Pluromas, you'll see all that other stuff on there. Fedi.garden, also well-curated list of instances. There's a lot of this in here, as well as, I'm not reading that URL. There's a bunch of URLs. That's why I give you links, so you don't have to go through all of this. And I'm definitely not reading the tons of information link. That's just, I just saw it a few days ago. It's probably been around longer than that. It's a nicely laid out page. It does have a way to get started, but what I really found valuable in that is there were tips on etiquette and how to look at a community and start, don't just go stomping around with exactly the same stuff you said on the other site. Look a little bit and they'll sort of explain to you, like, how do you make a graceful entrance into this? Because that'll make things better. Before you start posting, do things like fill out your account, introduce yourself a little bit. This will make people more likely to follow you and will give you a better experience. And then once you're into it, or if you're a numbers person, the Federation, that's where I got that little graph on the users. It'll show you how many servers are out there, how many users are on those servers, how many monthly active users. Of course, all of those numbers are a little squishy because there's servers all over the place. Some of them may not respect reporting, so these numbers could be off. We don't know. And a friend of mine, Mauricio, came up with this list, which I completely vandalized and put up here. So I want to give him a little credit on that. So I'm going to demonstrate a couple of things, but I'll take a couple questions before. But I want to show you a couple things first. But I will, if you want to, please. What's that?
If you have questions,
No, give me a question. We have got some time, so give me a question first.
All right,
I'm not going
thank
to
you.
open it up totally though, but you're anxious, so I'm
all
going to
right,
take it.
thank you. When you said about joining an instance, is it possible to migrate from an instance? Or...
Thank you for reminding me. This is why I like questions. I like questions, by the way, and constructive criticism. So, outstanding. So if you're on Mastodon, and you're on an instance that you're not entirely thrilled with, you can migrate your account. I just did this recently, so it pulls over most of the people you follow and most of your followers over to the new instance. But something to keep in mind, this is only a Mastodon to Mastodon operation right now. As far as I know, of course, the Pleroma people will make me look like an idiot by introducing it while I'm talking. You can't migrate from Mastodon to Pleroma or any of the other servers. That's strictly a Mastodon to Mastodon thing. But to be honest, I like to play up the diversity of the Fediverse, but most people will join a Mastodon instance and that will be their view of the world. So that is what most people will see. I'm telling people, look around, but most people are going to settle. Most of the communities are centered around Mastodon. That's not entirely bad. But I like to mention all the other stuff too, to show that there's a wider community out there. But yes, you can go...
What prompted your migration?
What's that?
What prompted your migration?
The server I was on previously got a little big for my taste and was having some questionable moderation things, which it was the really difficult end of moderation. It wasn't like, hey, we've got a whole bunch of Nazis over here. That's really easy to solve. You kick them off with president. This is like, people are, okay, sort of like a squishier thing. But you hear enough reports of that and you go, there must be something to this. So that and the fact that it got really big prompted me to move.
And that you see in your local feed, right? Started seeing the...
You might. See, here's the thing. Somebody was saying, and I don't know exactly how this term is defined, reply guys. So if someone is replying to someone else's message, that will not show up on your local feed. It's only initial posts end up in your local feed. So someone says, there's people that do these horrible things. I'm like, I never see this. I watch the local feed. I don't see these guys doing this because they're replying to other people's posts. And if I don't follow that other person or that person, I never see that stuff. So it was something that, it wasn't my fault, but it became my problem, So I sort of said, I found a nicer community, I like the way that it's moderated, and I made a move. And most of everything came over. Like 65, 70% came over, and then I understand I can flip the switch off and flip it back on again, but I haven't done that yet. And then another chunk of them should move over. And there's also a bug in the fork of the software that they said as soon as the next version comes up, that bug should get resolved. So I'm not going to flip that switch off and on again. I'm not doing the light switch rave, off, on, off, on. I'm just going to wait until they fix that bug, and then I'm going to flip it off and on and see if the rest of the people migrate over. And then hopefully we'll get it down to a small number, and then I can just follow them individually. Right now it's a little big to do that.
And that's for Mastodon to Mastodon.
Yes, Mastodon to Mastodon. So if you're on a Mastodon server and you say, I would like to move to this other one, That should work. Okay. So, let's do the live stuff, because that's always a winner. Always. See, I've done other talks, and I've always been very, conscientious to have everything self-contained on the machine, but it's really hard to demonstrate internet services strictly on your own machine. That doesn't work out so well. Yeah, that's difficult. So, let's see. Let's take a look at PixelFed. So here's my regular feed. You saw the portfolio view, and this is long pictures, but you can see here's one I did. Some destination Linux folks here, and you can see there are a lot of pictures. I don't understand taking a picture and blurring everybody's face, but whatever. There's lots of stuff you can see. There he is. Okay. Some people polish the CPUs and put it out there. Hey, who am I to judge? So this is PixelFed. I've been on this for a while. I like it. I use it to display, like I said. Can I get my pictures? Yeah. Yeah, other than Destination Linux, it's pretty much bicycles leaning on things. That's what it is. That's my life. So Linux Rocks is the video site. You're looking at mine. I could talk, but no one would hear me. Okay. You can see the videos that I've put up there. Let me see if I can get a more general view. Okay. So you can say, oh, look, they use Arch, by the way. So you can see lots of videos, lots of different stuff. I'm not a big video guy, so I'm not like on PeerTube all that much. It's where I put my stuff. Let's take a quick look at Mobilizon. I'll come back to any of these if people have questions. Come on. Brief introduction to Mastodon and the Fediverse. And the reason I showed all of these first, I stole all this from Scale. I don't think they mind, for the 0 people that have signed up for it from my thing that I did not advertise in any way whatsoever. But I wanted to show that you can do your location, your time and date. It's kind of nice. If you follow a group in Mobilizon, you get notices of the events. I haven't seen how you can respond via Mastodon yet, though. Maybe they're still working on that. I need to follow up on it. But it's pretty open insofar as, unlike a meetup.com, you can just respond to an event with email and get the notifications that way too. So it's more open, and you can get notifications through it. So it's nice. And let me show you. I'm going to show you here is the basic view of Mastodon. Here's your simplified view, or the default view. And you can see, now my actual home timeline has more people and less projects and publications on it. But I didn't want to expose anybody unnecessarily. Surprise, you're in front of, an extra couple hundred people that you didn't know you were going to be broadcast to. So I created an account just for this. So there's a few more projects and publications and less people. My account has mostly people in it, for the most part. But you could see we've got lots of posts here, and I'm going to show my bookmarks, because I tried to set this up last night, and I'm really glad I didn't do this live, because things took a lot longer than I expected, and that would have been really more embarrassing than me talking about it now. So you can see what we have is Free Software Enthusiasts, which is my group on Mobilizon. I put up a new posting for the local 2600 meeting. There it is, showing up on my Mastodon feed. I put a new video up, which I probably shouldn't show because it's just, Wi-Fi. Okay, that's a terrible idea. I'm not going to run this because the bandwidth will probably not support it. Maybe we'll play later. But I put up a new video. That showed up in my Mastodon account. Now, these are all me, so I'm sort of like in a room talking to myself. But this could be other people you were following. It's more like you can see that I actually did these things. And there is my pixelfed.social thing, which I also subscribe from there. So we've got 3 different services other than Mastodon, and all of these ActivityPub-enabled services have fed into my main feed. Now, people have said, oh, well, what do I have to do to upload a video to PeerTube? Well, you can subscribe to someone's feed in Mastodon. You can comment on those videos, and you can boost them for better visibility. But you can't upload a video to it. You actually have to create an account there if you want to put your own videos up. Same thing with PixelFed. If I subscribe to somebody's pixel fed, I can look at their pictures, I can like their pictures, I can boost them so other people can see them, I can make comments, but I can't upload new pictures to that service unless I create an account, which seems fair. We don't have a single sign-on for the Fediverse yet. That seems like centralization that is unlikely to ever happen. I don't even think it's a good idea. So that's my live-ish demo. I did all these the other night because then the problem is I was on my home feed and I'm like, oh, half of them are gone. There's all kinds of other stuff interspersed. It didn't work out really well at all. So that's why I'm showing you the bookmarks as opposed to the live feed. This gentleman asked if I'm hosting my own Mastodon server. No, I am not, because I'm lazy. So I'm not hosting my own Mastodon server. And again, if I was doing a single user thing, I would look into Pleroma or Acoma or Mistkey or one of those other ones that is a little lighter and easier to administer. Mastodon is set up, he was thinking big right from the start. He's got a couple of 500,000 plus instances that he runs. That's the scale he was looking for. If I were going to run it, I'm thinking me and like 4 other people, and that would be fine. So I don't need something that will scale to 500,000 people. So some of the other, if you're thinking, hey, I'm going to run one of these for myself, look into that other stuff before you just spin up Mastodon. Unless you just want to, you can play around with it. There's no harm in it. But before you get attached to all your follower groups, look into some of the other software first. More questions? I'm more than happy to open up. That was all the demo stuff I really have. If anybody wants to see anything, I'll be more than happy to show you, though. There's no reason you couldn't, and I would be good if businesses did that. If they want to someone said, could you do that in an office? Yeah, and I think businesses, if they want to be interactive with other people, that way you don't have one account for X business. You could say, this person at this business does that, and if people leave, they can either migrate their account if the business allows it, but if it's a business account, I guess they really run the show on that. Doris?
So 2 questions. I think
Sure.
One, I just happened to look at my feed, and it turns out that Automatic apparently is going all in on ActivityPub.
Yeah, so Automatic is, I by no means said all of the companies that are looking at
I
these
was
things.
just surprised. I'm a big WordPress fan, and so it's going to
Yeah.
be nice to be able to do this. And I wanted to know if you had any comments on the Raspberry Pi Mastodon meltdown.
When you say like running Mastodon or a Raspberry Pi, or the rather unfortunate series of events when
The unfortunate
Raspberry
series of
Pi
events.
decided to, do a thing. Yeah, the Raspberry Pi brought on a new employee. So this is unsurprisingly in an open source, non-traditional social network. It tends to run a little left, and most people are not like, hey, let's get right behind the police right away. And Raspberry Pi did exactly that. They said, hey, we brought on a new hire, and guess what he used to do? He used to use Raspberry Pis to spy on people, and everybody went, wait, what? And they were largely not happy with that, and as a way of reacting to that, they said, well, if you don't like it, you can block me, ha, ha, ha. And everybody went, again, well, wait, what? So what that was is, that really wasn't a Mastodon issue, that was a company PR problem. If you're going to have somebody run your Mastodon account, you should probably vet them for having some decorum and reading the room of the community that you're posting in, which they failed horribly at. So, excellent question. I kind of forgot about that, but excellent point to bring up. And some instances blocked that Raspberry Pi server, and some didn't. A lot of people unsubscribed, which is what they wanted. Odd PR move. Let's say stuff that will make lots of people unsubscribe. Okay, if that's the way you want to play it. They just, that was not reading the community that you're posting into. Another question? Oh, I have a gentleman with the microphone. I'll get back to you.
So for Twitter, there's, and I kind of point out to non-technical users that Twitter is not much different than, say, just like a...
I can barely hear you. Can you start over just a little bit louder? You're coming through the microphone, but barely.
Is this good?
Better.
Okay, good. So something I point out to non-technical users is that Twitter is not really much different than, say, like a traditional bulletin board running on like a LAMP server or something like that. And then whoever has root on that LAMP server, they can manipulate the data however they would feel. And so, I don't know if this is like confirmed to be true, but within Twitter, there's like something called like a God mode or whatever, so that if someone wanted to post content as a user, those who are connecting to Twitter, they have to blindly trust the, whatever certificates they have loaded in their browser, which is a problem in itself. And then they have to blindly trust whoever is the administrator of that web server, whether it's Twitter or whether it's a Mastodon instance, something like that. So I looked into Mastodon user provenance. How do I know that this post from this user from some Mastodon server somewhere that's coming up on my feed, which is some other server, how do I know that there's integrity to this post? And then I saw that there is something there, but it's kind of half-baked, half-implemented. And then I see there's this new protocol out called Nostr, which starts with user provenance, and the infrastructure in the middle is actually pretty dumb. So it's a very important topic because social media is a very charged space.
Right.
And yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know anything about Nostr. I'm gonna have to leave that part as your thing.
you should check
That
it
I don't
out.
know about. But as far as the verification, there is an interesting way that they allow verification. I have extremely weak verification set up. Hey, that's the schedule. That has nothing to do with this. So, if you look at my profile, oh, I didn't set it up on here. What's that? What's that? The back of my head. No, that's where I'm. Okay. Okay. Give me a second here. Let me shrink this down because I know I have this set up over here. I'm intentionally trying not to. So if you. Wow, how come I'm not at the bottom of my screen? That stinks. Ah, here we go. Okay, so I have weak sauce verification. Okay, I'll show off. If people tag themselves as scale 20x, that's fine. So I have weak sauce verification. So say you're someone with the New York Times and you want to show that your Mastodon account is definitively linked to your New York Times account. I don't know why I'm using them as an example, just any company. Say you're with a company and you want to prove that this Mastodon account is who you're talking to at this company. If you have a verified, like you run a web page, you can put a reference link in it that will link back to Mastodon. Now, the reason I call mine weak sauce verification is because I set it up on my NeoCities page. So, woo, really hard barrier for entry there. So you shouldn't take that as an exceedingly strong verification that I own that. But if you knew me at my domain name, and I put this link on my domain name, you could look and say, oh, this guy that owns this domain definitely controls that site, so this verification will come up. So when you said sort of weak verification, I have demonstrated the weak verification. But if someone has verification that says, this is me, and they're on a NeoCities page with a big string of numbers and letters on it, you might say, okay, you verified that you control that website. But if you have a well-known website, you can prove to people that you are the person that runs that website, and subsequently, that is your Mastodon account. Does that answer your question, or?
This was an interesting thing that you brought. Can an admin of a Mastodon instance pretend to be me?
Yes.
Yes, the admin. Yes, and I was going to bring that up too because you had another thing in there. So yes, you have to have some degree of trust in your Mastodon admin, just like you have to have trust in your email administrator, right? Unless you PGP sign your messages, your email administrator could send email as you too. Anybody that has a certain level of access on your email server could send email as you. Something that, since we brought up privacy, that I should mention is, just like on Twitter, direct messages are not in any way encrypted. So they are only not broadcast to anybody. And people go, oh my God, then my Twitter admin can see my DMs. Say, yeah, just like on Twitter, like half the company had access to that stuff. So is it awesome for privacy? No. Is it better than, or is it any worse than the alternatives? Also no. So if you're really concerned about privacy, your DMs should just consist of, here's how you find me on Signal or XMPP or Matrix or something that is end-to-end encrypted properly. Or here's where you can find my PGP key, and we can email from there. Or you could PGP encrypt your things here and look like you're sending gibberish to the world, which would be kind of neat. So you had a question. I don't know where the microphone is. I'll just repeat after you do.
I was looking at, I guess, Mastodon. I'm on the planning
Like scale and how big can they get?
No, scale this.
There have been some. Hey, you have played right into my hands here, because here's these, I actually pinned a column of scale 20x, and you can see there's been some degree of action on here. Some of it by me, most of it by other people, actually. I've been not all that active. So there's a decent amount of stuff there.
Sounds like not only do I want a Mastodon account, but I can use the mobilization. I can even set up a complimentary event and to point people over.
Sure, you could, set up a Mastodon.
And with the pictures in the pixel thing, and,
Yeah, I mean, if you're just sending a picture in a short message, yeah, you just do it on whatever account, your Mastodon or your Pluralm or whatever. But if, what's that? Oh yeah, that's what all these are. These aren't linked to PixelFed or anything. You can post pictures up there, but if you're saying my focus is images, I really want to do images, PixelFed would be a better choice for you. But Mastodon does it. Yeah, people embed video and stuff. It's all in there.
so that was the other question. What scale things did you run into? Because apparently there's like a scale instance, but they're not accepting new users.
Yeah, and I would like for Scale to do stuff like post their Mastodon links on there and maybe put all the same stuff that goes out on Twitter should come to this too, because Scale is about open source and free software, and we should support that at least as much as the alternatives. I get there's more people on Twitter, okay? They're still there. So you federate from, you duplicate your stuff from Mastodon to Twitter, that way you get the interaction.
Yeah, I think it's just, I'm sure by next year when we catch your talk, that'll all be solved.
Sure. Yeah, it'd be great if all those things were solved, but we have to face the reality is this is run largely by volunteers. So some things may not happen at the scale, but
I mean, there's a certain point where, like getting a Mastodon, we'll see.
yeah, but also the converse of this is if an admin has a hissy fit and decides to start changing everything around and screwing everybody's accounts up, that's only one Mastodon server that gets screwed up. Even if Gargron went off the deep end, it would be a very large chunk of the community, but it is not all of the community.
But this is great, and thank you for doing the talk. It filled in a lot of blanks.
Sure thing. And I think there were more questions in the back, maybe? I'm happy for questions. It means people actually paid attention to me, heaven forbid. And I have some Mastodons to give away. Oh, and if anybody wants to discuss this more, I'll get to your question in just a second. I'm just going to plug another event since I'm here on the stage and I have the microphone. There will be a BOF later tonight at 9 o'clock in this very room. And it said informal discussion, but this room, I'll put stuff up here, and we'll talk about stuff. So if you want more discussion, if you say the next 8 minutes of this isn't going to be enough for me, come back later. We're going to be here and talk, and I can talk about this stuff really forever. And that's probably not good. So there was a question in the back I'd be happy to address.
Well, you said you wanted a few questions. I might have too many. So first, I want to make sure I understand. So Mastodon is an application that accesses this ephemeral Fediverse?
Again, think of it as, I'm going to interrupt you before you get to a second part. Think of it as email. They each have their own little world. So if you're on an email server, you can email people on the same email server, but you can also email people on other email servers. Mastodon, you can message people on your server, but you can message people on other servers. And even servers that do other things, where email is strictly email, Mastodon, you can look at pictures, you can look at videos, or you could discover videos, and you can do all these things within the Fediverse, of which Mastodon is an enormous part of. It is literally the elephant in the room. Good, I got groans. I appreciate that.
So if you have, and I'm actually part of a worldwide organization here, so that's why I'm going this way. If you have a worldwide organization that is got segments of North America, Brazil, Japan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you can have here's part of the Fediverse that, or Mastodon setup that is here's the parent organization. Then you'd have lots of subs in there.
You
or
could,
or
sure.
Are they just all individual entities?
What do you mean, like one company with a bunch of different
Right.
groups? They could run their own servers, or you could just do it as subdomains. But that's something that Mastodon has been oddly slow to implement, is any kind of groups. I mean, they're working on it. You could do lists. So I'm not sure if it really addresses what you're talking about directly.
Okay, so it kind of sounds like it's not really quite there yet.
Yeah,
But
they
it still can be
They haven't implemented everything, but, it's like, one dude started writing this thing, there are lots of contributors, but, it's ultimately, his thing. I mean, not that people haven't forked it. I was talking to Art earlier, is the instance I'm on is a fork of Mastodon called glitch.soc, and there's a bug with a certain thing, so I had trouble following his account. And I don't want to flip that switch back until my instance operator upgrades to the latest version of that, because it's supposed to fix the glitch, as they say. And then I'm going to try to import everybody back over again. That was a non sequitur
I think
reference.
that covered everything.
Any other questions? The Mastodon network cannot ban you. Any number of servers can ban you. Servers have come online, and I don't want to be politically incendiary, but a server came on and had a lot of bad actors and posted a lot of garbage, and nearly everybody defederated from them, after which they said, we're taking our ball and going home, and they defederated from everybody else and went to be their own standalone thing. So there's no network it's like saying getting banned from email. Like, yeah, if you're a jerk on Gmail and you trip their things and they kick you off, you can go create an Outlook, so you could move to another instance. But if you continue the bad behavior, you'll probably get kicked off of there too. Until you find a place that has lax enough rules that maybe they won't kick you off, and then people probably won't federate with them anyway. So, there's a circle of people that want that completely unrestricted. I want to be a jerk on the internet, and maybe someone could find a home over there. Luckily, that won't bother the rest of us. So, and I'm not saying you personally, but you brought up the question. So, more questions? Okay, we're about 4 minutes from the end. So, please, if anybody is interested in more stuff, like I say, I can talk about this until forever. Come to the BOF. But then it won't be just my show, it'll be everybody's show. So that'll be, a little more interesting than just me up here yakking about stuff. So, thank you all very much for coming.